Today we are going to discuss about how to connect to basic Excel and visualize the data and what happens when connected to data and what are some auto-generated fields in Tableau and what is a live connection and an extract connection and how to save the Tableau file. So these are the topics that we are going to discuss today. So let's get started. So I'll just show you a simple data. So I'm just copying this particular data into an Excel. Okay, so let's copy this data. So this is the sample data that is available that I have created for region and related to country and sales. Okay, so how Tableau will understand the columns? So it will be able to segregate on basis of the criteria of that particular column. So let's say if you have the name of your country, so it will understand that it is a geolocation. So to locate that particular location in the map. So region, if you see APAC. So APAC is not a country name nor a different city name or any particular location. So it's just like a aggregation or it's just like a short form of the region name. So Tableau won't understand that as a location name. So this is not a geolocation basically. And these two are looks like names and this is a text based content. And if you see sales is numerical, so sales will be considered as measure and these will be considered as dimensions. So Tableau will segregate what are dimensions, what are measures, and in all the columns, what is to be considered as text and what is to be considered as numerical and what is to be considered as float, integer. So all this segregation will be done. So now let's see what all we can do. So this is the example for a classical dimension where it will be shown as ABC. So this is a string basically. So let's take an example of name. Name Ajay, Vijay, Raju. So these are the names. So this is also a string. So these are strings basically. And this is also considered as string. This is also considered as string. String is nothing but ABC value. So it will contain only the text. So it will be descriptive part of the name. And if you see, this is also string only, but so there is one more way of finding the data. So country is a geolocation. So by using this particular name, we will be able to locate that particular location. So India, so in maps, it will be shown as a location. So this will be considered as geolocation in Tableau. So that will be considered as geolocation. And now let's take, so I have sales and so these are the values can be in, so this can be float values. So if you have decimal places, that will be considered as float. So these are float values. And if you have, let's say, quantity. Okay, so let's say 2 quantities, 3 quantities, 4 quantities. So this cannot be integers. Sorry, this cannot be decimal places. So you can't put 2.5 quantities like that. So let's say you are taking some 2 products. You can't take 1.5 product like that. So you have to take particularly 2 products or 3 products. So that can't be in decimal places. So this will be considered as integer. So in integer only, we won't be able to see decimal places. So Tableau will be able to understand what are the float and what is the integer. And let's take date. So if you take date as well, So this has to be in proper date format. So let's put, so Tableau will always be able to understand what are the date fields and all. Yeah. So this will be date. And then there will be a lot of options. So I'll just show you. So if you click on this, so number, decimal, whole is nothing but integer. Decimal is called as float. And we will be in date, and in date we will have two, date and time. We can specify time as well. So we will be having string. Strings are nothing but, so which only have the names. So these will be considered as string. All the dimensions are strings basically, but so the country and some geolocations, these are some address specific details that were inbuilt in this particular columns. So we will be calling these as geolocations. So not only country, so you can take example of country, state, city, postal code, district. All this can be considered as geolocations. All these are geolocations where you can locate that in the map. Yeah. So if geographic role is there, so in that you can see country, region, state, zip code, or postal code. All this can be considered. Okay, so now let's connect this file to Tableau. So I'm just saving that file. So let's remove these extra details which I have added. Okay, so I'm just saving this. Location. So click on this connect to data and go to Microsoft Excel and click on this file. So you should be able to see how Tableau is segregating the data. So region APAC. So this is a short form of the regions. Okay, so it's basically Asia Pacific. So Tableau won't understand this as a location specific. So it cannot identify. So it is coming as ABC. So ABC is nothing but string. So it identified as string. And if you take country, country is being identified as a geolocation. So in geographic role, it is considering, so you can see that tick mark. So country region is ticked. And Raju, Vijay, Ajay is a name and it is considered as string. And sales, see if you see these are decimal places. And if you go here, so actually this has to be number whole. Sorry, decimal places. So it is decimal, it is been selected as decimal only. And if you go to quantity, it will be whole. So whole is nothing but integer. So if you have decimals, it will be ticked as number decimal. And if it is integer, it will be ticked as number whole. So Tableau is identifying those things. So if we go back to our Excel file, so can anyone tell me how many dimensions are there, how many measures are there in this particular table? Abhijit, can you tell me how many dimensions are there in this Excel? Uh, no, there are four actually. So region, country, name, and the date. So date also will be considered as a dimension. So the rest are measures. So sales and quantity are measures. Okay, so let's go back to our Excel file. So that is what Tableau identifies. So it has identified this strings, country names, sales, quantity, and date. And if you have the date in date format, there will be a lot of options that we can do. So let's say, so I'm going to tell you about date separately. So if you have something like string, so you can do only, specifically you can show only those things, Ajay, Vijay, Raju, like that. So if you have date into consideration, so it's not only these 3 dates. It's not actually these 3 days. It is involved as year is involved in it, month is involved in it, date, everything is there. Week. So if you take date, so everything has to be considered. So that thing is established for date. So if you want to use quarter and year, so you can use. So there are 2 quarters, 2025 Q2, 2023 Q2. So you have that information, 2023 Q1. So that is what we can do with date. So date has a lot of abilities. And now let's talk about what are the auto-generated fields that are being created once we connect to any data. So if you see, I have connected to this particular table, and this table has only 6 columns. So if you go into the worksheet, but you will be able to see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So out of 6 columns, it is creating 11 columns. So there are extra 5 columns. So there are extra 5 columns which are generated by Tableau. So now we are going to discuss what are those auto-generated fields by Tableau and what is the use of those fields and what all we can do with those auto-generated fields. Okay, so as I have shown in the Tableau, so icons will be created in such a way that it will identify each and every column. And it will all in earlier versions, it used to show dimensions separately and measures separately in a separate folder. But in the latest version, so it is being shown like this. So if you select, so it will be highlighted with blue color. So all the blue ones, country, date, name, region, are dimensions. All the green ones are measures. So it will be highlighted like that. And you can also see the icons. If you are not selecting also, if you see the icons will be colored in blue color for dimensions and green color for measures. So now let's talk about these auto-generated fields. Yeah. So these are the auto-generated fields. So the ones which are highlighted in yellow boxes are the ones which are generated by Tableau. So measure names, measure values, latitude and longitude, and number of records. So these are the 5 auto-generated fields. So let's start with the count, sheet 1 count. So this is basic information if you want to know the count of records. So if I drag that and put it in the text marks card, so it will show you the number of rows. Let's say, so sheet 1 count. So it will be stored as table name, in brackets, it will be shown as count, table name and count. So in every table, whatever table that you connect to, so that table name will be there in brackets, it will be shown as count. And if you put that in the count text marks card, you will be able to see the records, number of records. So there are 3 records. If you see here, 1, 2, 3. So it is just taking the count of records. So this will be common for every table that you connect to. So to know the count of records. And latitude and longitude. So latitude and longitude are specifically created when you have geolocation in your data. So if I have connected to this particular data, and this is what is geolocation. So I have one column which has geolocation. So if you have one column or many columns, so you will be getting this latitude and longitude. So this is the information to locate uh, the address in the map. So to locate the address in the map, we oh, to locate the address in the map, so Tableau will automatically creating this longitude and latitude. So let's say, so if I go into new sheet and if I double click on this country, so it is showing me the location of all the, so it is showing me the location of all the countries. So India, China, Cambodia. So all these locations will be shown here. So India, China, Cambodia. So these are the locations. So how it can be, I mean, how it is locating those locations. So based on the longitude and latitude. So if the country name matches, so that Tableau will be identifying the latitude and the longitude of that particular country, and it is locating the area of that particular country here. So not only like that, if you use this filled colors, so India will be colored. So let's put this in country in color. Yeah, so India, China, Cambodia. So you can color it like this. So this is happening only because of longitude and latitude fields. So when you have geolocation in your data, so Tableau will automatically create these two fields. If you don't have country column, let's say, you don't have country column. So these are all, so you don't have geolocation. So Tableau won't create that longitude and latitude if you don't have geolocation. So these two fields will be created only when you have geolocation. Otherwise, this won't be created. Otherwise, these fields won't be there. Okay, so now let's talk about the other two fields. So we have discussed about the count and latitude and longitude. So this is a combination you have to use. You can't use one. So latitude and longitude is a combination of two. So it has to be used together, but you should not use it. I mean, you should not drag and drop. So if you are using, let's say country, let's drag country into the rows or column shelf, and you can go to this maps. So maps will be enabled. Let's say if you drag name into here, so name is not a geolocation. So maps will not be enabled. Only for country, state, district, postal codes, it will be enabled. If you see, when I drag country into the row shell, so these are enabled. So now if I click on this particular chart, so I can see those countries. And if I want to color each country with a different color, I'll put country in the color. So I can see each country in a different color. So this is, that is the use case of longitude and latitude. So now let's discuss measure names. And this latitude and longitude will be generated only when you have geolocation related columns. Okay, so measure names and measure values. And this sheet one count. You connect to any data, even if you have geolocations or any data. So these three columns are common. For longitude and latitude, you should have some geolocation. You should have one of these columns: country, state, district, postal codes or zip code. Okay, one of these columns you need to have city, So like this, if you have any one of this column, this latitude and longitude columns will be created. But sheet one count, measure names, measure values. So it will be created automatically. So if you connect to even one column also, these three columns will be auto-generated. So now let's see what are these measure names and measure values. So measure names are nothing but header names basically. So header names, or you can say the names of the measures. Names of the measures will be stored here. So let's go to our Excel file. So what are the names of the measures? So if you see, we have two measures here. So these are our two measures. So what is the names of these measures? Sales and quantity. So that will be stored. So in that example, in the file that we connect to, sales, profit, sales and quantity. So it will be stored. These names will be stored in measure names. So in the title itself, it's there. So measure names, it's nothing but names of the measures. So these are the two measures. And what is the name of these two measures? Sales and quantity. So these two informations will be stored. And now let's talk about measure values. So in the name itself, it defines. So it stores the value, stores the values